I was 21, driving cross-country alone after finishing college. I had this old silver Honda Civic, nothing fancy, but I trusted it more than planes. My plan was simple: 3 days on the road, cheap motels at night, podcasts and gas station coffee to keep me awake. The second night, somewhere in western Kansas, the air had that lonely, endless quality. The highway stretched flat into the horizon, fields on both sides. No streetlights, just the thin glow of my headlights cutting through blackness. That's when I saw him. At first, I thought it was a trick of my tired eyes, but no. It was definitely a man, standing just off the shoulder. He wasn't waving or walking, just standing there, thumb out. I slowed down, not sure why. I'd always sworn I'd never pick up a hitchhiker, but something about him. He looked like he could have been my dad's age, mid-40s, maybe 50. Flannel shirt, jeans, backpack slung over one shoulder. Normal enough. I pulled over. He got in without a word, just nodded once and shut the door. His backpack clunked against the seat. The smell hit me right away, like sweat soaked deep into fabric. "Where you headed?" I asked. Silence. He just stared out the windshield, hands resting on his knees. I laughed awkwardly, tried again. "I can take you as far as Denver. That's where I'm going." Nothing, not even a nod. I started driving again, heart pounding harder than it should. I told myself he was probably shy, maybe foreign, maybe just tired, but his stillness felt wrong. His breathing was steady, but he never shifted, never coughed, never cleared his throat. Just sat there, staring straight ahead. The miles dragged on. Midnight ticked closer. My throat was dry, my knuckles white on the wheel. I tried turning on the radio, but the only stations were static and faint country songs warped by distance. Then I noticed his hands. At first, they looked normal, but when the headlights from an oncoming truck swept across the car, I saw them clearly. Knuckles scraped raw, dark stains crusted into the skin. Dried blood. I swallowed hard. My brain started spinning scenarios. An accident? A fight? Worse? I wanted to pull over, to tell him I couldn't go farther. But the highway was empty, endless, and the thought of stopping in that dark nothingness with him sitting beside me was worse than keeping the car moving. So I kept driving. Hours passed in tense silence until we hit a small town, just a cluster of gas stations and diners. I pulled into a lit parking lot, heart racing with relief. "Bathroom break," I said, forcing cheer into my voice. I got out, stretched, trying to think. Do I tell him I can't keep going? Do I call the police? When I glanced back through the windshield, my stomach dropped. The passenger seat was empty. His backpack was gone. The door hadn't made a sound. No slam, no click. He was just gone. I searched the lot, circled the car, even checked the trunk like an idiot. Nothing. The night air was still, quiet, only the buzz of neon signs and the faint hum of a vending machine. I never saw him again. But the worst part? When I finally got back on the highway 30 miles later, I saw another hitchhiker. Same clothes, same backpack, same exact man. And just like before, he didn't wave, didn't move, just stood there with his thumb out, waiting. It was supposed to be an easy drive. 4 hours, maybe a little more, straight shot home after spending the weekend at a friend's place in another city. I'd planned to leave mid-afternoon, get home by dinner, but we lost track of time talking, and I didn't hit the road until nearly 9 p.m. By midnight, I was on an empty stretch of highway surrounded by nothing but woods. The kind of woods that press right up against the road, where your headlights only illuminate black trunks and endless branches. There weren't many cars out, just the occasional semi roaring by in the opposite direction, shaking my little sedan as it passed. That's when the gas light blinked on. I cursed under my breath. I hadn't seen a station in at least 30 miles. For a while, it was just silence and my own thoughts, the fuel gauge needle dipping lower. Then a sign appeared, glowing faintly in the beams of my headlights. Rest area, 2 miles. Relief washed over me. I figured they'd have at least vending machines, maybe maps to point me toward the nearest gas station. Worst case, I could rest until morning. The place was small. A cracked asphalt lot, one row of buzzing vending machines under a canopy of flickering fluorescent lights, and a single squat building labeled restrooms in peeling paint. No cars except an old pickup parked half in the shadows near the tree line. The engine was off, but something about it sitting there made me uneasy. I parked closer to the lights, locked my doors, and got out. The night was thick and heavy. No wind, no chirping crickets. Just silence, broken by the crunch of my shoes on gravel. The restroom smelled before I even opened the door. Inside, the overhead light buzzed like a wasp nest, flickering with every other second. The tiled floor was stained, the air sharp with ammonia and damp mold. I picked the last stall, shut the door, and sat. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming in from outside. They stopped in front of my stall. Through the gap beneath the door, I saw boots. Black, scuffed, planted firmly facing me. They didn't shuffle or move, just stood there. My pulse hammered. After a long, tense minute, I forced myself to speak. Occupied. My voice cracked. The boots shifted slightly, and then, horror, I saw knees bend. A head dipped low to the grimy floor, and an eye appeared in the gap under the door. Just one unblinking eye, staring at me. I yelped and kicked the door hard. It slammed into something solid, his shoulder maybe, but I didn't wait to see. I bolted out, heart racing, barely pausing to yank my jeans up. The bathroom door banged against the wall as I pushed through. My car looked impossibly far away across the empty lot. That's when the pickup near the trees roared to life, headlights snapping on, blinding me. I sprinted, keys in my hand, lungs burning. I dove into my car, slammed the locks down just as the pickup peeled out of its spot. Gravel sprayed against my bumper as it tore past, speeding toward the highway. For a long moment, I just sat there, chest heaving, headlights illuminating the cracked asphalt and swinging bathroom door. I didn't want to move, didn't want to think about what would have happened if I'd been slower. Eventually, I forced myself to start the car and drive. I didn't stop again until I was back in my driveway, hours later, hands still trembling on the wheel. The next morning, the fear still buzzing in my veins, I searched the rest stop online. That's when I found it. The state had shut the place down 6 months earlier after reports of multiple assaults and robberies. There had been warnings in the local news, but the highway department hadn't taken down the signs, which meant whoever had been waiting there wasn't some random passerby. They knew drivers like me would still pull in, and that meant they were waiting for someone exactly like me. On a cross-country trip a few years back, I decided to save money and break up the drive by staying at small motels instead of big chains. The first couple nights were fine. Clean enough, no frills, just a bed and a shower. But one night, around 11 p.m., after driving nearly 12 hours, I was desperate to stop. I pulled off into a tiny town in Oklahoma, the kind of place where Main Street was just 2 blocks of dark storefronts. The only place open was a rundown single-story motel with a flickering neon sign that just said, "Rooms." The man at the front desk barely looked up when I checked in. Middle-aged, heavy-set, unshaven. He slid a key across the counter and muttered, "Room 6. No smile, no small talk. Something about his expression made my skin crawl, but I was too tired to care. The hallway reeked of mildew and cigarettes. The carpet was sticky under my shoes. When I unlocked my room, the smell hit me. Stale air, damp carpet, something faintly metallic underneath. The bed sagged in the middle, sheets thin and scratchy. The lamp buzzed when I turned it on, but I was exhausted. I locked the door, shoved a chair under the handle out of habit, drew the curtains, and lay down. For a while, I just listened to the sounds, pipes groaning in the walls, a TV muffled through the wall next door, the occasional car hissing past on the highway outside. At some point, I drifted off. I don't know what time it was when I woke, but the room was pitch black, and I heard it. The doorknob rattling. At first, I thought maybe it was my imagination, but then it came again. Slow, deliberate pressure on the lock. Someone was testing it. I sat up in bed, every nerve on fire. The chair under the handle shifted with a dull scrape. Then silence. I held my breath, listening. That's when I caught it. Soft footsteps outside, moving along the row of rooms. Gravel crunching faintly. They stopped directly outside my window. The curtains were thin. Anyone standing close could see my silhouette if I moved. Slowly, carefully, I reached for my phone on the nightstand. Through the fabric, I saw it. Just the faint outline of a man in a hoodie, standing in the parking lot, staring at my room. He didn't move, just stood there. My hands shook as I dialed 911. The dispatcher's calm voice barely cut through the pounding in my ears. She told me to stay inside, stay quiet, and keep her on the line. Those 10 minutes waiting for the police felt like hours. Every creak of the building, every gust of wind outside made me flinch. The shadow by the window lingered, shifting slightly, until finally, red and blue lights washed across the curtains. The cruiser pulled into the lot, spotlight sweeping across the row of doors. By the time the officers got out, the man was gone. Vanished into the dark fields behind the motel. The police searched, but found nothing. No car, no footprints they could follow. One of the officers told me quietly that this wasn't the first call like this. Travelers had reported someone trying their doors at night. Sometimes people woke to find their doors cracked open, as if the lock had been picked, but the intruder had left when they realized someone was awake. I didn't sleep after they left. I packed up before dawn, tossed the key on the counter without a word, and drove until I physically couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. To this day, I never stay in roadside motels, only chain hotels with multiple floors, cameras, and people around. Because I keep thinking about what would have happened if I'd been too tired to lock that door, or if I hadn't wedged that chair under the handle.